by Birmingham Assay office.
It's a mixed workshop, so the start of the workshop is a brief overview of what AMP Group is, the Birmingham Assay office, and the fact that we're here in India now and what that's all about. But it goes on to bridge the gap. I did a presentation with the LBMA on Wednesday, which was a comparison of European hallmarking systems with what is currently in place in India. So as I finish the presentation, it will be about bridging the gap of what you've currently got in India today with what we're used to using in Europe with hallmarking. We will then pass on to two technical presentations, which are both based on the same fact, which is PGM containing gold alloys. And I know there's been some debate around that earlier today. So with further ado, I will move on with my presentation. Okay, that's what we're going to cover. So, who's the Birmingham Assay office and the AMP Group? How does UK hallmarking work? What's the convention, which is a European issue around hallmarking? The International Association of Assay Offices, how does that work? Gold standard in assaying and summary and recommendations for bridging the gap. So the reason hallmarking exists in the UK, and I know the reason your government want to make it mandatory in India, is it's about protecting the consumer. The Birmingham Assay office has been in existence since 1773, and that's what it's all about, protecting the consumer. We've opened a sub-office in July of this year in the SEEP zone in Mumbai, and that's completely focused on export out of India to the European market. Again, all about protecting the consumer. What's happened with the Assay office though, in 1773, all it did was test metal and hallmark. Today, it is a full testing lab. And those are all of the tests that take place in the laboratory in Birmingham and will be the tests that we introduce here into India. All of them have the same theme. They're all about testing and protecting the consumer. So the UK has got the oldest and one of the most robust and rigorous hallmarking systems in the world. Legislation requires every article of precious metal to be tested by an independent third party. That's a very clear message from me through this presentation. It has to be independent. And you can't describe an item as precious metal if it hasn't been tested and hallmarked. Traditionally, the providers of that independent assaying have been one of 4 UK assay offices. They're strictly regulated and overseen by something called the British Hallmarking Council. And the British Hallmarking Council is paid for by those assay offices, and it is a non-governmental organisation that reports into government. And then it reports into government through the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills, which is very similar to your BIS department. All 4 assay offices take their independence very seriously and their integrity and high quality of service that they offer. They are all, and this is a mandatory requirement, UCAS 17025 accredited for their main and sub-offices. So one of the things to think about in India, in the UK, if you have a large jewellery manufacturer, we are allowed to put our people on that jewellery manufacturer's site in a discrete area in that factory, a protected area, which eases that manufacturer's supply chain. But they are our staff on that manufacturer's site. That's called a sub-office. We get visited by UCAS in terms of being accredited at least once a year, and we're also audited by the Queen's Assay Master, who's the Assay Master of the Royal Mint. So, UK legislation requires that any item offered for sale that is gold, silver, platinum or palladium must first be assayed, tested and hallmarked with its fineness and the sponsor mark of the person who submitted it for hallmarking. Or it is illegal to describe the item as precious metal. And we have certain minimum weights that you can sell below, but they are very low. For example, 1 gram in gold. The item can also carry the town mark, which is the brand of the assay office. And our brand, you will see on every slide, it is the anchor in the top left-hand corner. Those 3 marks are the legal minimum. There are 2 additional marks that you can have as voluntary marks. One of them is the traditional fineness mark, and the other a date letter, which enables you to trace when the item is actually stamped, and I believe you use the date letter in India. There is no negative tolerance, as in the US. If it's 9 carat, it has to be 37.53% fine gold or above. Nothing below is acceptable. And if we receive goods that we're told are 18 carat and they haven't got the precious metal content of 18 carat, they get marked down to the carat below, the hallmarking standard below. So, no negative tolerance. And the mark has to be struck by an independent assay office, and that's just an example of our marks. We use the audits that we get not as a tick box exercise. So the audits for BSI 19001 standard, 9001 standard and UCAS, that's our continuous improvement. We are always looking for the auditor to push boundaries on the way we are running the operation and keep driving us to improve. And as 4 assay offices who are competitors against each other, we work together to be consistent and to use best practices. So, the mark we would consider to be critical to ensure that the consumer and gold precious metal markets are protected. But I'll come back to the point I made on the earlier slide. Consistency is everything. So what we produce as 4 assay offices are guidance notes. So when we get materials that might be mixed metals, gold and silver, gold and stainless steel, gold and leather, if we've got rolled gold or bonded gold, we talk to each other when we get these items and we agree what the process and procedure is and whether it should be marked and how. And we have guidance notes, they're on the internet for accessibility. But again, a key message here is the assay offices work together and agree that. Without government involvement, we do that ourselves. And those product specifics are phone calls that can take place every week that result in an update to those guidance notes. So there is a standard that we all agree on. The integrity and credibility of the institutions given this responsibility must be unquestionable. So none of us do any products that would compete with our customer base. We are independent. None of us would be allowed to, for example, own a jewellery store. We have to be independent. We are not governmental. We are private businesses that we own ourselves. The audit trail that you have must be absolutely transparent, and our staff are vetted and heavily trained and certified and continually pushed back on in terms of audit and improvement. And the state, as in India, which is the challenge, must be the driving force to ensure that regulation, monitoring and audit are undertaken by qualified, tried and tested, accredited, independent experts. Clearly one of the issues that you have in India is the complexity of your beautiful jewellery. And it creates challenges for us in the UK because we have Indian jewellery in the UK, quite a lot of it. So one could argue on that piece of jewellery it's going to be heavily soldered, and that is an issue under UK legislation. The solder on a piece of 22 carat jewellery would have to be of a certain minimum fine gold content to be acceptable, and heavily soldered pieces we sometimes reject. So the rules you need to put around this consistency across the assay offices for testing your more complicated jewellery are key. And it's key then that everybody runs with the same set of rules and agrees them. So as I've said, all 4 UK assay offices are members of the British Hallmarking Council. Membership of that council is clearly defined, and we bring in non-trade members, people outside the industry who are there to ask the stupid question, who don't assume, who ask us why we're doing some of the things that we're doing with the focus on protecting the consumer. As I say, we fund the British Hallmarking Council ourselves. It supervises the activities of all of the 4 assay offices and makes sure that there is adequate provision of hallmarking in the UK. It also creates regulations and proposes legal changes and advises the Secretary of State for Business about those changes that need to go through statute. The BHC maintains high standards, monitoring the work of what we do, and our established sub-offices, including now our offshore locations, as legislation now allows us to put hallmarking offshore outside UK territory. The BHC reports into the National Measurement and Regulation Office, the NMRO, and the NMRO reports into BIS. So that's the structure of the assay offices in the UK. Now, the convention is a European structure that works around what's happening in the UK. And it was a convention that was agreed and signed in Vienna in 1972. And it was an agreement between states to permit mutual recognition of hallmarking. But you can see there are scales with numbers just above the big anchor. That's a convention mark. So that means any of those states that follow the processes and audits that we have agreed as part of that Vienna Convention, we would accept their hallmark product in the UK without testing it and hallmarking it again, because they've signed up to all the rules of that mutual recognition. Now, is that an interesting challenge in India for the fact that you've got many states? Should you have this sort of agreement running across the states, or would you not bother with this sort of infrastructure? And would you have this sort of agreement with other countries going forward? So the convention was signed by members of the European Free Trade Association. You can see the list of countries there that signed up. And there is a standing committee that runs and oversees that convention that meets twice a year, that we attend. All the 4 UK assay officers attend, and our government attends, and so do all of those countries and their government officials. And that's what that standing committee does. It's like the BHC, the British Hallmarking Council, but it's a much wider remit. It's about the European states that have signed up to that convention. And it's about control, and it's about consistency, and it's about holding us all to account so that that integrity is clear. And then we've got another association. So the International Association of Assay Offices tends to have its meetings at the same time of the European Convention meeting. We have one meeting on one day, the other meeting on the next day, and we meet anywhere in Europe, so we move to different countries. This is about technical cooperation between the state assay offices and is a wider group of people than the convention. So there are 47 members from 37 countries here, and India has attended as a visitor this convention on 4 occasions, but hasn't joined the convention and is able to. And it would absolutely be a recommendation going forward. One of the critical tests here is a round robin, which is a test of all of the assay officers that are signed up to the IAAO to make sure the proficiency testing, the results we get from the samples that we're given from that round robin, match within a certain tolerance. And if they don't match within that certain tolerance, there's a spotlight that comes on us. And we're actually told how to test to achieve that tolerance. Now, this is something that could start in India today in terms of trying to raise the standards against all of the assay offices. Round robins could be started here now. Clearly, they need an independent to drive that round robin, and clearly I've put Birmingham Assay Office's name in the frame for that. But that infrastructure would seriously help to try and start driving and raising the standards and that consistency across the assay offices. So what's the gold standard of an assay office in our view? This is the gold standard, that you have to have trained and competent employees, start at 10. So we provide training, we have an academy, we've trained many tens of countries in the world who've started up with assaying. We started with you guys when you first started assaying here. And it is about continually developing those employees. You need a culture of integrity. Adam Lawrence said, and I've nicked his words from my presentation, integrity is doing the right thing even when you're not being watched. And that's the underpinning philosophy in the assay office. You must always do the right thing. They need to be accredited, so a third party should always prove that you're doing the right thing as an independent, and the assay offices have to be standalone in our view. You need fully auditable processes and systems, frequently audited a minimum of once a year, and the assay office should be in the position that if the auditor turned up any day of that year, they would find the business running the same way, that the business isn't just tweaked for that day of the audit. You need appropriate investment in the right technology. We use XRFs extensively in the UK. And you need consistency of assaying, which is monitored via round robins, and we also get involved in the LBMA proficiency testing. Regular internal auditing, so you audit yourself, you don't just wait for a third party. And I would recommend no minimum weight exemptions. I would make everything be hallmarked if I had that choice. And a transparent and open countrywide system, but with state-backed and industry-supported. So industry has to support it and want to do it, and state has to provide the consequences to people who do not follow the rules. And that is key for what you're trying to achieve in India. If nobody's ever going to come knocking on your door and you're not following the rules, then the boundaries all start to move back out again. So there have to be some consequences for not following the rules. So in summary, my message to you guys would be assay offices should be independent. The value and the culture of that assay office's integrity is number one, and it's everything. And if you lose that, you can't hold your head up as an assay office. Consistency across all of the assay offices, even though they are competitors against each other. And that means closer working together with those assay offices. Network globally, I would absolutely recommend you join the IAOO. Third-party proficiency testing, the round robin, is an absolute must. Accreditation is a must with regular audits. There is a difference at the moment between the NABL 17025 accreditation and the UCAS accreditation, which I think needs some ironing out as well. Allow the assay offices to charge for a quality service. If you're going to pay peanuts, you get poor services because people can't afford the training, they can't afford to invest in the right equipment, they can't afford to meet together and work together. So I absolutely don't support that hallmarking should be pennies. You need clear guidance notes for the industry, and you need notifications that the retailers carry in their store, educating the consumer about what hallmarking is doing for them and how your gold is hallmarked and is what it says on the tin. You need consumer education. You pay for what you get. And some of your high volume retailers with very good reputations are absolutely selling that as their USP, their unique selling proposition. You come to my store, I guarantee you'll get 22 carat. That's what every retailer should be doing. And policing is key. Somehow to deal with those consequences is absolutely key. So that's the end of my presentation. Now I'm going to hand on to the technical guys, and I'm going to hand over to Dippal. So we'll wait for his presentation to load. And Dippal's going to talk about PGMs in gold alloys.
That young lady gave a really very long introduction. And as I always say that other than my wife and my mom, no one is interested in my CV. I'm telling you the truth. So I think it would have been enough to say that I'm technical director of World Best Assay Office. Remember this, World Best Assay Office. Because once you say World Best Assay Office, I know everyone make a reference, I'm talking about Birmingham Assay Office. So what exactly I do there? I look after wet chemistry, technical aspect of the wet chemistry lab. There we cover all the European directives applicable to precious metal, metal, plastic, paints, everything, including hallmarking side. And I also look after technical aspect of assaying and hallmarking. So with this short introduction, I come to my today's topic. So today's topic is limitation of the fire assay system when dealing with the jewelry containing platinum group metals. This is a very controversial subject, platinum. You all are from the precious metal industry, so I'm sure you all are familiar with ISO 11426 fire assay method. I think the Indian equivalent is 1418, Anil, am I right? Yeah. So this method basically defines how to analyze gold content of jewelry alloy. And where the carriage system is in place, we the assayers, lots of assayers are here, my old colleagues are here, basically rely on this technique to determine gold content. The accuracy of this method is pretty good, but for simple matrix, like the matrix which contains gold, silver, copper, zinc. But the accuracy may be compromised platinum group metals are present. Very clearly, platinum and iridium are present in the alloy material. The reason behind it that if these metals are present, then they do not get removed during cupellation and the parting process, and at the end of the day is weighed as gold and causing serious error in your assay results. India basically, I'm told 1,000, naturally when I was there, the figure was roughly 1,000 tons in a year. So I'm assuming it's still is the same. When you deal with nearly 1,000 tons of gold every year, so protecting caratage integrity is absolutely essential if you have to maintain the consumer confidence and trust in gold jewelry. Because any loss of confidence would impact negatively on gold demand of this dominant market sector. You guys may say that India is a 22 karat gold market. Where does this platinum and all this iridium really finds? I mean, I know the iridium is used as a grain refiner, but it rarely goes into 22 karat jewelry. So why this subject is relevant? So let's understand the problem first. You know, brown in color. Indian people are brown. And we are intelligent. So this combination exists only in this part of the world. Brown and intelligent. That means you are Indian. You know, like mere paas maa hai. I am Indian. Basically, I'm in this industry for 33 years, and last 17 years I've passed in England. In late 90s, when I was here in India, that time Gold Control Act was there. I know Anil, we all were dealing, we were really enjoying lots of power during those days. And that time it was brought to our attention that some dishonest element are adding grey black powder as gold substitute. Being an assayer, I knew it is nothing but iridium. That time lots of gold refineries were coming out in Middle East, Dubai, and all these things were happening. And actually later it came out to be true, and I was thinking that this issue would have gone by this time, but it doesn't look like. Because when I speak to people here, they say that this issue is very prominent nowadays. So when iridium is present, what exactly, what kind of problem it can cause? Number one is that its identification is very, very difficult unless until you have really trained eye. And if it remains undetected, then it will be weighed as gold, and your product will contain less gold than what exactly you have reported. Another thing I've noticed when I was there, I'm just thinking of that time, all the jewelers here are basically refiners. And majority of the refiners that time, if I'm not correct, Anil can correct me here, they were doing refining using double silver method. So they were adding silver and then they were doing the refining. If you follow those techniques, and still I think that is the easiest way of refining here. If you follow that particular technique, it is very, very difficult for you guys to detect iridium. In fact, you will be adulterating your bullion product also, and in turn, basically your jewelry product will get adulterated with. So, why iridium? Iridium is substantially cheaper than gold. Naturally, if you degrade jewelry using iridium, it will give you a cost benefit. It will give substantial cost benefit to the producer if it will remain undetected. That's one thing. And I know that many precious metal labs and hallmarking center they don't have access to sophisticated equipments and techniques. So naturally, majority of the time, this particular element remains undetected, and that causes, so it is weighed as a gold and causes a serious error in your assay results. If this issue is widespread, which I presume is actually the case, because when I speak to the people, my old colleagues here, they are really giving me horrible stories about this particular element, then definitely there is a need to educate Indian gold industry, particularly assayers and refiners, by providing, in fact I will say auditors too. I have seen something very horrible things outside. So that's why I'm adding this word. Auditors should also know what they are auditing. Otherwise, integrity of the jewelry product and bullion will be severely affected. So this is one of the two objectives I would like to achieve today. So assaying of gold when platinum is present. I must tell you that 60% of the jewelry sold in the West is white in color. As that lady was telling that that white gold paper is on my name, and the definition we provided is accepted word over. Basically all gold are yellow gold. White color is achieved by bleaching gold with elements like nickel, palladium, platinum, zinc, silver, etc., etc. The younger generation of this country is more Western than Westerner themselves, and they are developing taste of white gold jewelry. So sooner or later, these elements will find their way into Indian jewelry and scrap. High level of platinum or palladium are present in your gold alloy. Then like iridium, these metals are not fully removed, especially platinum, by conventional fire assay method, which I say conventional, like ISO 11426 or your Indian equivalent 1418. In such situation, these metals will be weighed as gold and causing serious error to your assay results. If platinum is present in your alloying material, and palladium as well, then there is a need for a robust method in order to arrive at the most accurate results. So how to analyze gold in high platinum alloy? This is another objective I would like to achieve today. So let's go first platinum and then the iridium, because iridium is your very important subject for you guys. But let's start with platinum. First I'm going to give you a little fundamental side, and then I will do a little comparison, so that will be extremely useful for the people who are in the field of analysis, and also for the top level management. They should also understand when the results are not matching, what exactly could be the problem. So it is something is there for everybody here. So when we analyze gold, everyone knows here, those who are from the analysis field, that gold and silver has to be present in a certain specific ratio. Only then gold will separate from other impurities. So similarly, if platinum is present, then gold, silver and platinum should be present in a certain specific ratio for complete separation of gold from all the impurities, including platinum. And I'm going to tell you what those ratios are in the next slide. We add a piece of copper when we analyze gold in those material which doesn't contain any copper. So let's understand what's the purpose behind adding copper. Number one, it makes the alloy malleable. That's simple. The second reason is that Silver, during cupellation process, absorbs lots of oxygen. And when you take the fire out of the furnace, this oxygen tries to escape. When it tries to escape, it pinhole and takes away some of the molten metal. And this phenomenon is called spitting or spurting. So when it takes away some of the molten metal, naturally it causes the loss, and that affects the results. So from the experiments we have found that if copper is present, then spitting or spurting phenomena doesn't take place. Like silver, platinum also has a great tendency to absorb oxygen. So if platinum is present in an alloy, then spitting and spurting can take place. Some molten metal is a fountain of the molten metal. When you take the fire out, oxygen comes out, you see the fountain of the molten metal, which you can't see, it happens very quickly. So adding piece of copper is beneficial. And the third thing copper does, because copper is placed below lead in the electrochemical series, those who are from the chemistry background understand this. So the first lead will remove and then copper will remove. Anything below lead, that will stay in the cupellation process till other materials have gone, oxidized. So copper helps in the removal of lead, which is the ultimate purpose of the cupellation. Another thing, the sample weight also influenced during the separation of platinum group metal, platinum. I will advise, if your platinum is present more than 3% in your alloying material, then don't take weight of the sample more than less than 80 milligrams and greater than 120 milligrams. If it is less than 3%, then you can go up to 200 milligrams, because here we say, because we are reducing the weight. In normal analysis you take 250 milligrams or 500 milligrams. Since we have reduced the weight, so we always advise weigh it on a highly sensitive balance to improve the accuracy of your results. When the platinum content, because the jewelry and other stuff we get to see from India, doesn't contain more than 12 to 15%. So when platinum content are greater than 10%, I will recommend that you guys should increase the temperature of furnace to 1150 degrees centigrade. Usual temperature you do in the fire assay process, which is written in your standard, is I think 1050. So increase, because platinum has a high melting point. If you don't increase the furnace temperature, it will freeze and it will retain loss of lead, and what will happen? Eventually the cornet will break during parting. So this is just a fundamental science. What exactly I have done? Now I have done a little bit comparison for you guys with the ISO 11426, because I'm quite familiar with ISO 11426, and your standard, Indian standard, is copy of this standard. So 14181 is no different than 11426. So what you do basically, when you analyze jewelry, you can take weight between 20 to 200 milligrams, and if it is bullion, you take 500 milligrams. But if your sample contains platinum, then take the weight between 80 to 120 milligrams, and 200 milligrams you can go up to if the percentage is below 3%. Higher the platinum content, lower should be the sample weight. What exactly, because this is not a training thing, what I have done, I am giving you one particular scenario where the platinum content is between 3% to 12%, or 0 to 12%. And anything above 12% is outside the scope of this presentation. If you guys are interested, then you have to consult my commercial team, then we will discuss the subject. So If you analyze your particular sample with this particular method, which I am going to discuss, you will be easily able to achieve the accuracy of plus minus 0.85 per thousand. So, if platinum contents are below 12%, then naturally you have weighed the sample, add approximately 115 milligrams of 4,9 gold. You have to add gold from outside to analyze gold. And add fine silver equivalent to 2.17 times. Here the practice is 2 to 2.5 times. I am sharing the secret. You will get very, very accurate result if you use silver 2.17 times. Particularly those guys who are involved in PT scheme organized by LBMA where accuracy level is pretty high. So 2.7 times of the gold, fine gold and fine platinum present in alloy. That much you have to add. Proof. As usual, you use two fine gold proofs. And in this case, you have to use the matrix matched proof. And I told you about copper. In this case, you add in ISO 11426, you add 10 to 15 milligrams of copper. There you have to add 15 to 25 milligrams of copper. One thing is very important here. You have to increase the lead content. So there you use 4 to 5 grams. For the complete oxidation, two things are very important. Number one is the temperature and the lead. Lead should go between 6.5 to 7 grams. Our validation is based on this figure. Temperature of furnace, as I told you, there 1050, it is 1150 degrees centigrade for 22 minutes. You have to, when you take the fire, make sure the buttons are partially cold, otherwise the same phenomena will happen, oxygen will try to escape. Flattening, rolling, and rolling into the cornet is same, but here I would like to say one thing. This is very important for the SAS here. It is that, when you carry out the cupellation, the bead, which the bottom portion of your bead which is in contact with cupel gets dirty. The top surface is very shiny. Assayers have tendency, they love shiny surface. And when they roll the cornet in such a way that top face is always on the shiny face is on the face of the cornet. That is absolutely wrong. The reason behind it, number one thing I want to tell you, the sum of your cupel, the cupel we get from India contains lots of silica. Silica doesn't dissolve in nitric acid and it gets embedded with your cornet. And that is weighed as a gold. But another important thing is that any impurities, because you will see when I will discuss the iridium part. So you always roll the cornet, dirty side should be the front face. Because if dirty side is the front face, when you will carry out the analysis, after parting, when you weigh the cornet, if any impurity is embedded, you will be able to see, at least you will know the reason behind why your weight is high or low. So that's very important. As far as parting is concerned, 12 to 15 minutes. If the platinum content are greater than 3%, best thing is to repeat the parting. Because traces of the platinum will always be in the cornet. If you don't do it, your results are going to be wrong. So that's very, very important. This is the thing you will never get in any literature. I must tell you that in 2005, I had approached to British Standard Committee, and that time I had told them the formula they are using in ISO 1142 standard is not correct for every situation. It took from 2005 to 2016, it took them almost 10 years to accept that fact, and now the new standard which will be published very soon, the new formula is coming, and for your information, you guys have 1418, that is a copy of 11426, and that formula is not right for every situation. But I'm not going to dive into this. But if you are adding gold from outside, this is the formula you have to use. Otherwise, you will be reporting the wrong results. Derivation of this formula is outside the scope here, but if anybody is interested, feel free to either email me or discuss with me after presentation. So this is very, very important, I think. You might be knowing other things, but I'm pretty sure you will not find this in any of the literature, because this is derived by me only. So let's come to second objective, assaying of gold and its alloy in presence of iridium, ruthenium and osmium. This is a hot topic here, because when I talk to people, they talk about iridium only here. I carried out lots of literature search before coming here, just to find out is really a big problem in India, world over. And the literature search clearly reveals that this is a major problem, but at the same time, the scientific community has not done much to resolve this issue. Iridium is regularly added as grain refiner, less than 0.05%. It doesn't remove during fire assay process, during cupellation and parting, and like high platinum, if you don't follow the right process, then it will be weighed as gold and causing error to your results. And I understand from the discussion I had with several experts here, and I spoke to scientific community, precious metal community world over, and this issue is really there. People are deliberately adding iridium in gold alloys, and naturally just to increase the fineness. I mean, it's not a true fineness. So, going by newspaper report and talking to the expert, this practice is spreading and increasing. So, believe in fact. We don't believe in hearsay, like you say that, okay, this is the problem, that's the problem. Scientists always believe in the fact. So, I know everybody knows Dr. Chris Cote. He was technology director of World Gold Council at that time. This bar was basically produced in Middle East, and this was all operation was supervised by Dr. Chris Cote himself, and this bar was handed over to us. So the makeup of the bar was 228.34 grams of 999 fine gold, very thoroughly tested. 5.07 grams silver, 15.83 grams of copper, and 4.94 grams of iridium was mixed. And the bar was basically tested by ICP and several specialized techniques, so we knew that this much of iridium is present, which is, if I go by this, is 2.1% of iridium was present in the bar. So this bar was first examined metallographically. This bar was given to Birmingham University with a free hand. You use the best technology available. Use XRF, scanning electron microscope, metallography, whatever you want to do. We want to know what exactly is present in it, whether anything unusual. And you will be surprised. Even Birmingham University, the world very well-known university, failed to detect any iridium in the sample. Because we knew that iridium is present, that was conclusively proven by other techniques. destructive techniques. So we sent this bar was sent to FEM Germany, Precious Metal Research Institute, Germany, and they were asked to carry out. FEM guys are quite smart. They were able to detect the presence of insoluble particles in the matrix, and later they identified that as iridium. This difference, now you see that two world-known organizations are testing and they are giving a different results. So how difficult is to detect iridium even with such a sophisticated equipment if it is present to that level? I mean, if you add 2%, I don't know, these guys failed actually to detect this thing. So then finally this bar was tested at Birmingham Assay office, and our results was 915.10, 915.10 and 916.0. So average was 915.40. Just you assume that entire gold and iridium is present in your alloy. So in that situation, the result should have been 916.87. The true value was 897.4. We got 915.40 and theoretical value was 916.87. This itself proves that addition of iridium has a desired effect. So no one should have doubt that with fire assay method it is difficult to detect iridium and you will be reporting high results. And I'll show you certain more things a little later. So does any procedure exist to detect iridium? Yes. Number of techniques are available to measure iridium content, but to determine accurately you need those sophisticated instruments like ICP, OES, etc. And I'm pretty sure you guys don't have, these hallmarking centers at least don't have access to none of the hallmarking. Am I right, Anil? None of the hallmarking center is having access to these equipments.
Not affordable also at 25
rupees. It's not affordable for them, I understand. So, when you don't have that, oh, like a bomb. When you don't have those equipment, I think I'll be wasting your time if I discuss, because there are so many techniques available. We don't face any problem in England because we have got access to most sophisticated equipment. We have got method, we have got everything. But there is no point to my discussing those methods here when you don't have access to those equipment. So there is a need to have a straightforward method which is less dependent on expensive equipment. And another most important thing, because I know the qualification and the people who are working in your precious metal industry here, I really need a method, even a non-technical person with very little technical knowledge should be able to perform the test. That is my objective basically. So, when I think about the technique, because everyone, all hallmarking centers, you guys have fire assay facility. So why not use this particular facility or extension of this facility to analyze iridium content? So when I think about the best techniques which comes in my mind is once you have done the fire assay, because with my personal experience, and I do not know, you guys know that's why, because I am able to detect with XRF and all, it is a problem detecting iridium. But naked eyes, you can detect. So some people were telling me with XRF, yeah, if you are just struggling, who has time to test hundreds of fire, hundreds of samples that minutely? You know, unless a 10 spot, 15, I don't understand the logic, but anyway, it is really difficult by XRF method, but yes, if you are pointing to the right point, you will be able to say, but it becomes so dilute, sometimes you feel that it is a trace, probably added as grain refining. So, Accurasia technique, in my opinion, at the moment is the best technique for India. Once you have got sophisticated equipment, fine. Then we can discuss most modern other techniques, much simpler, much quicker. So what exactly you have to do? I have seen that people are using a concentrated Accurasia dissolving the cornet. Don't do that. Some iridium will go in your Accurasia itself. Traces. So what exactly you have to take? You have to take freshly prepared Accurasia and then mix with 5 parts of water. You have to take dilute Accurasia. That will dissolve gold, leave the iridium. Iridium will drop out. You will be able to see iridium very easily. If you see on the top of presentation, I have shown the picture of alumina crucibles. So what you have to do using the millipore apparatus. I don't know if you have access to this filtering apparatus. If you're not, then you can use normal filtering filter paper. But best is to use this apparatus. Wash it with dilute Accurasia, then subsequently by deionized water, and with dilute ammonia, because if some silver is there, that will get dissolved in ammonia, so you will only get iridium, pure iridium, because otherwise you will be reporting the false result. Dry it at 1800 degrees centigrade, and you guys can use your annealing furnace, which goes from 0 to 600 degrees centigrade, 800 degrees centigrade. But make sure you start from ambient temperature, and go up to 600 degrees centigrade. Those who guys have got hydrogen reduction facility, then that will be much superior. You will never get any oxidation of iridium in it. So once iridium is filtered, once you go to 600 degrees centigrade, weigh the crucible, and then subtract the iridium content, and that will give you what is your gold percentage. Residue, I was hearing here, ruthenium and osmium and everything. Okay, residue in the fire-acid condition, unless until your rhodium contents are pretty high, then there is a problem because then there is a separate technique, separate method, there is the extension of the pyracid method. But if it is like object is plated or something, all rhodium will go in your parting solution. Very small traces of ruthenium is going to present, that is not going to affect the results drastically. When I say traces, it is within your measurement of uncertainty. And osmium. Osmium is so volatile in nature, it cannot survive during cupellation stage. All osmium will go during cupellation. I do not know how you guys are finding osmium in your cornet. I will be. Coming here, I did roughly 80 to 90 different assays, and basically made iridium alloy with copper, then mixed it with gold and everything I did. And I did some direct mixing using iridium powder with gold. And what exactly I found that the recovery rate is 85 to 90%. Though my cornet, when I cornet, I do directly dissolution and analyze by ICP, then it was 90 to 95%. So 10 to 15% of iridium is getting lost during the process. So whatever results you will get, either will have to apply factor or I will have to think of some better way of modifying this technique. At the moment, this is what the know-how is available. So roughly recovery is 85 to 90% here. So yeah, that's the situation. So iridium, actually I have got pictures of all the coordinates from 2% to 29%. Because the customer is not allowing to bring these coordinates and all that. But with 2%, I tell you, you guys are going to struggle. And the guys who are working in the Assay Center, definitely going to struggle. They will simply weigh it and then they will be reporting the wrong result. 4%, you are able to see some distortion in the coordinate. There it is, you can detect if you have a trained eye. Normally the people, because I know about the gold industry here and I know virtually majority of the people of the hallmarking centers and people working there, on that basis I personally say that.
That 4% is of the coordinate weight concentration, right? Not
Yeah. 4% iridium. 4% iridium, basically what we added and what exactly is in that. So it is 85% of what I've added. So 4% iridium is there in that coordinate. I have got up to 29%, but that I'm going to publish when I'll publish my whole paper on this subject. So you'll be able to see all the details in at some period of time. So, what gold industry issue, what is the way forward? I have a really high regard for World Gold Council because when I was here in 90s, probably you guys would not have this hallmarking scheme without World Gold Council support. I still remember the first day Mrs. Batla came to my, I don't know, you guys know Mrs. Stella Layton. He came to my office to discuss like how this hallmarking scheme is going to function. I took her to Mr. Pillai's office, and there this whole thing, the first note was written, and this whole thing started, and later it became a reality. So I think Indian gold industry like IIGC and I don't know how many organizations you have. I think PAMP should also support, they have got lots of money. With WG support, you should sponsor a research program to produce a true gold content when iridium and other PGMs are suspected to be present. And as I told earlier, that this method should be simple enough. The technician with little technical knowledge should be able to perform this test. Otherwise, if you make things too technical, those things are going to fail. So that is number one. And as I told you, because I know how, being from the mint background, so I'm familiar with every single process you guys use for refining. So refining technique also have to be modified so that you should be able to eliminate iridium when you are doing refining. This is one thing I have noticed, that people, everyone is doing the research but they keep the data with them. They never share with anybody. Okay, at some point, at least in the form of the research paper, you guys publish so that whole industry should benefit. And that is why I always wanted the World Gold Council to be part of it, because when they spend some money, they will share with everyone. So, whatever the data comes out, whatever the method we develop, that should be shared with the industry so that everyone can get the benefit of that research. So, this brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
It's a very nice presentation given by Dippal, and he just complained that people here are working on, they are doing research on some kind of issues facing day by day, but not sharing with each other. So I think we have started this initiative, and what work we have done on this iridium, osmium and ruthenium addition or adulteration in gold jewellery and related problems for the assay, we thought, okay, let's share with the whole country, and that's why I'm representing my organization here, that's MMTC PAMP India Private Limited. I am heading laboratory of MMTC PAMP India Limited. So what is the objectives? I already explained. To put some lights on the problems which we face when the samples contains iridium, ruthenium and osmium. And to do this research, we divided it in 3 points. We added purposely 0.1 to 0.5% of iridium, ruthenium and osmium in our samples and tried to see that how the analysis, how the assaying we can do by the XRF method and other methods. In this also we divided it in a way, purposely added iridium, then we make iridium and ruthenium composition and added it in samples. And for third, iridium and osmium, to just study the different properties of these elements with each other and the impact of this on assay. And the second purpose, second objective for this was melting in different furnaces using a different capacity as well as different make, whether it is really making an impact on distribution of this PGM and assaying of this iridium, ruthenium and osmium. And the last was the effect of melting quantity also. So we tried to take it from 100 gram to 1600 gram, so as also see that the impact of volume of the sample will make any impact on assaying or not. So this is the objective for our work. Then already Dippal has explained that why people are adding the iridium, osmium, ruthenium in the samples, and what is the benefit of this adulteration or this addition in the gold. So I will not go in detail on in this, but why iridium is added, I will just explain. Because it helps to control the growth size of grains. And as he himself explained, the cost effects also is very much cheaper than gold, and it is not easily detected by conventional PAMP methods. And all this purpose, people started this practice to adding iridium, ruthenium and osmium in the samples. What are the disadvantages? Of course, the most major impact comes on the assaying. When you are doing the assaying of these samples, you are not able to detect by the conventional fire assay method. Though there are next step of the fire assay method, as Dippal explained, that we have to do the ICP analysis of the cornet. But it's a tedious job, and so single small assaying center or hallmarking center, they cannot afford ICP, AS and such kind of instrument which can really help to perform the analysis of the iridium, ruthenium or osmium. Testing by the XRF method is one of the useful assaying option, but for that you have to really be you have to really calibrated instrument with your centers, and then only you can go for the assaying of this. Just a quick look on properties of iridium, ruthenium and osmium, how they are similar with the gold and silver. You can see in the table the different melting points. As the density increases and the melting temperature also increases for the different elements. So you can see rhenium, iridium, ruthenium and osmium. We have basically targeted the iridium, ruthenium and osmium, which has very high melting point as well as very high density. And so it's just a quick look on properties, so you will have idea how similar this PGM family are with the gold and silver. We have already discussed this, that they have very high melting point. Every adulterant has a melting point over 2000 degrees Celsius, and they have very low solubility in gold, as they are not performing any alloying with the gold, so unevenly distributed when you are mixing it with gold. No particular reaction with aqua regia, they remains unreacted with aqua regia, and that's why this step is used for the further volumetric analysis after the gravimetric analysis of fire assay. And they have a higher specific gravity than gold, so they are not easily separable from gold while you are assaying them. So here is the quick comparison for the X-ray and fire assay and silent points for both the techniques. How is the limitations of every method and what are the advantages, disadvantages of these both methods. So X-ray spectroscopy, everyone knows what is the principle, how these instruments are used, and nowadays in every hallmarking centers, presence of XRF unit is also mandatory by Government of India in our BIS standards also and GMS also, and which helps for the primary analysis of those metals for those samples may present iridium, ruthenium and osmium. For that you have to really well calibrated instrument with the good standards and all technical assaying capacity. So this is for XRF, and here I want to just quick look down these graphs that how XRF is better than the fire assay method. Here one particular silicon drip detector when we are using on the nowadays current XRF units, we are clearly able to separate out the different peaks of gold as well as iridium. As we say, their chemical properties are so resemblant. So they are just lines, and sometimes you didn't really differentiate both elements. But with such kind of highly precise instruments which use silicon detector, you can easily differentiate between gold and iridium and ruthenium and silver. So for this I put these pictures. Here fire assay, I will not go in deep, everyone knows what are the limitations of fire assay for the analysis of ruthenium, osmium and iridium. Though this is very conventional and gravimetric method, but you have to be really very experienced assayer that he can really detect the presence of this iridium, osmium or ruthenium in your sample while you are doing the calculation. When these kind of adulterants are there in your sample, after completion of your calculation, it beads itself shows some kind of sweating when you have osmium. When you have iridium, you can easily detect on cornet. I will show in the next, and you can see the cornets. I purposely added high quantity of iridium, ruthenium on these samples, and you can see the blackish spot which is present on cornet. They are indicating the high presence of iridium, ruthenium and osmium. And even you can analyze this cornet on XRF and you can have a qualitative analysis. Okay, this is a confirmation of the presence of iridium, osmium and ruthenium in that sample. But to have the quantitative analysis for these cornets, you really have to follow the ICP method as Dippal has given in details in that presentation. So why XRF and why not fire assay when you are particularly dealing with the samples which contains iridium, ruthenium or osmium? So fire assay method has its limitations, and in case of XRF, I explained that in case of really calibrated, well equipped, with precise instrument, you can achieve the plus minus 0.5% precision as compared with the fire assay, and which can be easily used without any manual intervention and without any problems. And for the sampling also, if you are going for fire assay, suppose you have 100 gram of ingot as a sample, you can drill for 3, 4 or 5 or maximum 6 points, and you can collect that drill material, or you can have a ornament and you can cut from one corner, another corner, you can mix it, and from that you are going to take maximum 150 milligram to or 250 milligram sample for analysis. If you are really lucky, then that PGM can be detected, that catch on that 250 milligram of sample, and then you will be able to detect it on cornet and on that step. But if you are not enough lucky, then you might lose the chances to detect that PGM in that sample. So here in fire assay, you lose the probability because of the sample size. But while you are doing this XRF, you can take a number of readings on both surfaces, top surfaces, bottom surface, you can cut that sample, you can have the readings on central portions also. So this is the first thing where XRF overcome on fire assay. Then these are where various trials we have conducted in our refinery and in our assaying centers to detect the presence of ruthenium, iridium and osmium using the XRF as a testing method. And what we have done, I will just explain. We have fortunately two different kind of manufacturers XRF in our unit also. We have used both. We have used conventional fire assay methods also to have a good data to come on some specific conclusion. Okay, so what we have done basically, we have selected some samples. As I explained what infrastructure we have used for this analysis, we have used three different types of furnaces of different capacity. We have purposely added these three PGM in different quantity at different trials. We have used different volumes of samples for melting, right from 100 gram to 1600 grams. And all these three things had given us a data, and we have statistically done all the analysis based on all these infrastructures. So first let us go one by one. First we have targeted only iridium. So we thought, okay, let's have a look on when we are adding iridium on samples by using a 500 gram furnace with 100 gram of metal, what are the results? And we collected all those data. And we found this data which is in front of you, that now here also when we analyzed on XRF, I divided it into three different rates. That's how many readings are shown 0, how many readings shown 0.1 to 0.3% values, and above 0.3% how many readings are there. And based on this we come on some conclusion which I will share at the end of the presentation. And I have analyzed these samples on three different sides, on top surface, on bottom surface, as well as we cut down the ingot, and on the central size of both the cut part we have analyzed by XRF method. When we have increased the quantity of iridium to 0.1 to 0.3, and we have used another volume of sample as 100 gram, 200 gram and 1600 gram metals, and used a different furnace which has a maximum capacity of 2000 gram. And these are the results we found. The same here again I divided it into 0, 0.1 to 0.3 and greater than 0.3. And we have found this kind of analysis results of these samples. And what are the observations we have from this data, from these two slides? So when only iridium is present in your sample, the pattern is from center to bottom. I mean, when you are analyzing your samples, we should target the center point as well as the bottom side more as compared to the top surface, so as you can increase the probability of detecting the iridium on that sample at that moment in that particular sample which is under your analysis. And qualitative versus quantitative comparison shows that it is relatively easier to predict the location more reliably than the quantity. As I said, that we are targeting on the qualitative analysis, that where are the maximum chances to detect the added PGM or added iridium on the sample, and so we have conducted this. So the rational approach to minimize the chances of error in detection of the purposely added iridium in the gold sample is to draw a simply sampling point which predominantly spreading at center and bottom multiple locations as compared to top. Then we move to the second trial, which we choose ruthenium along with the iridium. And here also we are dealing in different range, 0.3 to 0.5. and ruthenium addition 0.4 to 0.6% in 500 gram furnace, and different size, 100 gram, 200 gram, 300 gram, 500 gram by using 500 gram furnace. And we found this all the statistical data which I explained what are the observations under that. Continue with the second trial of iridium ruthenium. We added 0.3% iridium and then we 0.05% ruthenium to 0.6% ruthenium in 2 kg furnace. Here I changed the furnace as well as change the sample size, 100 gram, 300 gram as well as 1 kg. And here are the data which we concluded from the analysis of whole figures. I will explain in observations. Third testing or third experiment which we have conducted with the same iridium ruthenium. We have taken iridium 0.3% and ruthenium 0.05%. Here we use 2 kg furnace only for 1600 gram sample, slightly bigger volume, and we found this data for the both ruthenium and iridium behavior with the descent. So what are the observations for the statistical data or for this second observation? So with addition of ruthenium and with the iridium, the distribution seems to result in comparison to previous case when only iridium was added. In this case, ruthenium being lighter is not allowing iridium to settle towards the bottom. So in this case, the large quantity, especially on when sample are more than 1600 gram, the bar thickness increases. When you have 100 gram sample and we have 1600 gram sample, your thickness of the casting material, casting bar increases, which due to which the impurities do not get time to migrate upwards, and very few seconds it gets freeze on the bottom side, and the quantity of various places is still very unpredictable, but we can have some certain conclusion from this data. So sampling spots should be more to top and center rather than bottom side. This is exactly opposite to the iridium when you have added ruthenium along with that. Okay, in the final trial which we conducted with the iridium, we have selected osmium. What are the behavior of these two elements with each other when they are present in a sample and purposely added. So for this first trial we conducted 0.3% iridium and we have selected 0.4% osmium, and we have selected 500 gram furnace with the different volume 100 gram, 200 gram and 300 gram lot. And the results are in front of you, which I will explain in observations. The second trial we conducted with the gold, with the iridium 0.3%, osmium 0.4%, but I changed here the furnace. It's a 2 kg furnace. Samples are 100 gram, 200 gram, 300 gram lots. And what results we have got, we have put here in a statistical form and graphical form. So these are the observations for the iridium and osmium adulteration when you have in your samples. So iridium and osmium being heavier, as we have seen in chemical properties, they have higher density. So iridium and osmium being heavier, this settles at the bottom. The possibility of detecting iridium and osmium quantity is still very unpredictable. Osmium is surprisingly getting undetected in most of the cases which we have observed this when it is been alloyed with iridium and added purposely in gold sample. Most of the cases we didn't found what we have added osmium percentage. So osmium is little volatile. So it forms tetroxides at near about 800 degrees centigrade, and when you do fire or when you melt these samples around 4,960 or 1,060 degrees centigrade for melting, it's chances of becoming tetroxide near about at 800 degrees centigrade. And osmium combines with the iridium which form osmo-iridium alloy. And so here we can say with our data that predominantly detection at bottom with some more points on center, we should do the sampling plan in this way. We should have the more number of spots on bottom side as well as more number of spots on central side rather than going for top when you have iridium and osmium present in your sample. Okay, so finally, what are the conclusions for the this lot for this analysis? So here are the conclusion that at moment when you are dealing with the samples which contains the iridium, osmium or ruthenium, you really require a good quality of XRF machine at your assaying laboratory. You not only require the good kind of XRF machine, but also you will require a good trained person who knows all these anomalies with all these properties of the elements when they are present in the gold. And so as you can easily detect the presence of the this iridium, osmium and ruthenium in the samples when you are analyzing them. So when you are talking about qualitatively or quantitatively, it is not possible to catch, as everyone said, that is still there is no any 100% right proof method which can give you the assurance of exact quantity of presence of iridium, osmium or ruthenium in your sample, but at least we can detect it to a certain level as compared to fire assay, which is not possible in that method. And it is possible, but you have to go for the ICP analysis, which is very tedious job. So better to go for a highly precise instrument as well as a good trained assayer to run the instrument. One skilled assayer can easily analyze all these properties of elements. They can easily see the anomalies of these elements, and then they can decide really the title, the actual real title of that matter which is under his analysis and his title of his accountability on his shoulders. So this is the need of the hour, that you should have a good XRF at your assaying centers. And as I explained, all these data which we have conducted for these experiments we have done on XRF machine. Though we have done some experiments on fire assay also, which I shown you the coordinates, which clearly indicating the blackish part, clearly indicating the presence of iridium, osmium and ruthenium on the sample. But we have used the XRF method for the analyzing this data. So here is my final conclusion for all three types of work which we have done on addition of iridium, osmium and ruthenium. So when you have only iridium present in your sample, then trained analysis of sample containing only iridium is very simple. It moves from center to bottom side. So you will have more chances of detecting the iridium on bottom surface rather than top surface. So it is slightly increasing from center to towards bottom side. So in this case, what we should draw the sampling plan which will cover the maximum number of spots on bottom side as compared to the top side, so you can really increase the probability of detecting the presence of iridium, osmium, ruthenium in those samples. When we are talking about iridium and ruthenium, then the data interpretation clearly shows that the trend is from centers to top, exactly reverse to the previous case. So when iridium and ruthenium is present in your sample, then the trend of qualitative analysis of iridium is in ascending order from center towards top side. So again in this case we should draw a sampling plan which can increase your probability of detecting this iridium ruthenium on top side as compared to the bottom side. And when we are talking about the iridium osmium, when you purposely added iridium osmium in your samples, and what are the trends? The trend for qualitative analysis of iridium osmium is an ascending order from bottom towards center. So here again it is a little bit different from both previous cases. Here we have maximum chances of detecting the PGM in center as well as bottom side, and accordingly we should draw the sampling plan for this. I would like to really thank my team who has helped me by putting all this data. So Ankur Goyal, who is the president, and is a well-known metallurgist, who is heading my plant. He is also present with me here. Debashish Bhattacharya, who also helped me for his metallurgical knowledge as well as melting anomalies of these different elements. Myself, I'm standing in front of you for the whole analysis, statistical analysis as well as the assaying part. And one of our XRF assayer, Jadip, who have really done all these work. Though I presented it in 20 minutes, but we have taken it more than 4 to 6 months period for doing all these different experiments, and we have all collected those data, statistically analyzing those data, cross-checking with the different methods. And then all this paper is presented. One of the chemical engineer Praveen, he has given his inputs to make it in a really systematic way. And overall, the special thanks to my managing director, Mr. Rajesh Khosla, who all of you very well known him. His guidance continues with us, and he only gave always the opportunity for us, young blood like me and old blood like our people. He has a very good fusion of his team in our MMTC PAMP, and really thanks to him who has given me the opportunity to represent our organization here. Thanks to IIGC who given me opportunity to present my work in front of you guys. Thank you very much.
Got some questions from the floor, guys. So the first question is to Dippal. Is the sample size really going to affect the test results? If yes, how? And what is the ideal weight for accurate results? I do think we'll need to know who's asked this question, because that might be determining on the metal sample.
So number one, that higher the weight, higher is the accuracy. That's a fundamental rule. But in case if your alloy contains, a jewelry contains platinum, then separation, the weight definitely affects the results. And that is why I have given you advice. If platinum is present above 3%, my advice will be, because the validation I have done, and I have given you a general result, I have not given you the specific ratio for everything. If you are interested in knowing that, naturally you will have to contact our commercial team for that. But you take sample between 80 to 120 milligram, and the method I have defined, you will get results within plus minus 0.8 part per thousand. So I think this answers your question. If you are doing a fire assay or something, always take higher weight, you will get better results. And then the next question, as per assay practices in the industry, if there is a PGM present in the sample, is it possible to quantify each of them? If ICP-OAS is possible technique to do so, and as per which standard? Okay, yes. ICP-OAS is one of the best technique, but it is a destructive technique. You can digest, you can dissolve the sample, analyze by ICP, and you can analyze virtually every single elements of the periodic table. So yes, that is possible. But if you guys are interested in non-destructive, then XRF is one of the techniques. But then you should be familiar with making programs, because what exactly happens if your program doesn't contain a particular element, but if that is present in your alloying material, your results are not going to be right. Can I ask which machine you have?
ICP-OAS.
You have ICP-OAS?
Yeah.
And have you got XRF as well?
Yeah. XRF, Spark as well as ICP-OAS.
Okay, so ICP-OAS, if you know that, then there is no issue. You can simply dissolve and quantify each and every element present in it. And
according to which standard, sir?
Sorry, second.
According to which standards?
Okay, because in our case, frankly speaking, I am not very fond of this. I have validated my own method. Ours is an in-house method, and we follow exactly because normal international standard doesn't cover all the eventualities basically. So I don't use ISO standard particularly for ICP OS analysis.
So you have derived your own laboratory methods.
Yeah, in-house method, and naturally we validate everything, and then for each type of material we have got our own method, and that you will not. ISO standards are basically on general this thing, that okay, how to dissolve. Most of the ISO standard will tell you only you dissolve by acurasia, and then some will refer to HF. I don't know why we should use such an aggressive assay when it is not required. Then come to the next question. As per XRF, how to deal with PGM? As there is no availability of the certified standard, how do you deal with it? Should one believe XRF code in that? Okay. What I understand, most of you guys either have Fisher XRF or Spectro XRF. If I'm right, if somebody has a different XRF, just tell me, because then I can tell you different things. In case of Fisher XRF, they give you two different type of USB drives basically. One will allow you to make program, other doesn't allow you to make program. And these guys are very smart, sometimes they don't give you the drive. They're sitting there. So if you have got that particular drive, then you will be able to make program. And if you do not know how to make program, I will advise you contact my commercial team, and we conduct courses and specifically related with testing of jewelry and precious metal alloys. And we cover virtually everything, and once you are through those courses, you will be able to analyze results very accurately. And one way I find this Fisher machine quite good, but Spectro is equally good. There is no this thing. So both these machines have got this facility, and I don't see any problem why you can't analyze any elements using XRF.
Because sir, there is a non-availability of CRMs. So does the calibration is valid?
Yeah, one thing I just again little bit marketing here. We have supplied XRF standard to roughly 18 countries. Number one. Number two, I just wanted to tell you that these two machines have got certain, once you are able to make program, once you know how to make program, 5 or 6 standards, there is a way to cover virtually every single element which can be measured by using XRF. I mean, I don't want to go to the lighter element which naturally you can't measure. So here is the question of training. Probably you do not know how to use XRF to your benefit, and there are facilities. It's only the question of knowing things. What is the best procedure to be followed to take out gold from acurasia solution? Kindly explain in detail. Okay, the thing is, you have dissolved alloying material or scrap or something. If you are using acurasia technique for defining, I think sodium metabisulfite is the way you can do it. But there are several ways, and I think this will become a training session if you see me outside the scope. Otherwise, in my presentation, I've given my email ID. I think somewhere the commercial team email ID should be there. You email us, and then we will discuss this subject. Yeah, but there are so many ways to define, and particularly being in this field for so many years, I'll be able to help you guys.
One question was related to 39 and 49 gold or silver using ICB or Spark OES. This technology can detect 100 plus elements. Which of these elements are important to be analyzed? There are two questions. This is the first question, so I would like to reply. Yes, on Spark OS or ICP OS, you can able to analyze 100 plus elements. Only you need to calibrate your instrument accordingly, and according to need of the industry, your instruments are calibrated. In case of ICP OS, you have different standards available in market. You can purchase them, and accordingly you can make the program. You can make the standards. You can calibrate the program. You can analyze the number of elements, except some few cases where your nitrogen spurging or something like that required for analysis. When we are talking about Spark spectrometer technology or Spark OES, yes, here also again the same thing, but here you have to be really calibrate that instrument when you are really manufacturing that instrument. Partial calibration is done at the manufacturer side, partial calibration, the complete calibration is done at your side. But you really require standards, reference materials for these different impurities, and then only you can use and calibrate the Spark spectrometer. I mean, Spark spectrometer is very famous in steel industry also, in iron industry also, but they have calibrated accordingly their needs, which cannot be used in gold industry because gold base is different and steel industry base is different. So when part of this question was which of these elements are important to be analyzed. When we are talking about precious metal industry, these are the regular impurities which present in our gold material that we should make the program according to those elements. All the PGMs as we are discussing on the PGM on this forum today. Apart from that, bismuth, nickel, zinc, cadmium, all these are given in ISO 15093, 15096 and all those international standards which you can use. When you are talking about my organization, my laboratory, we are using Spark OES, we have calibrated our instrument, we have accredited our instrument for Spark OES impurities, for gold 24 impurities, for silver I have taken 22 impurities, which are generally present in your samples. The second question was, please suggest the test methods for homogeneity test for high pure gold and silver sample. According to our experience, when you have this high kind of samples, you can divide it into different lots. When you have a sample, you can again cut in different, if you are using Spark OES, of course you will require a solid ingot sample which you need to be really clean milled surface which you will use for the analysis. And on same sample you can take the different readings on different spots. Suppose you have 100 gram ingot, you can take 4 readings on top surface, 4 readings on bottom surface, and then you can check the homogeneity. The variation should not be there in your title as well as the presence of the impurity. Same with the silver, you can go on same Spark. You have to cut the samples in different portions and you have to analyze those on Spark. You can also do the testing at one time. After 30 minutes you can again test those same samples. Again 30 minutes you can test those same samples. So you can have the stability test of your instrument as well as homogeneity of that sample which you have made.
Why the detection is, it appears black on a cornet? If you see the physical properties of anywhere in the periodic table or whatever, it has a characteristics of white silver color. It's not black.
Yeah, I mean it's a greyish black, whitish grey black. I mean you can say that. Yeah. You are talking about iridium or what?
Iridium.
Yeah. So what? It is a iridium oxide. Basically, it turns into oxide. Its oxidation has taken place. Okay, just one more question which has come, which is actually I don't know how many requests I have received about this particular. Okay. The question is, as per ISO 11426 for assay of 49 gold, there is a requirement of 59 pure gold. Okay. Are such CRM material available along with the uncertainty of measurement, calculation and traceability? If yes, where is it? Okay. One thing I must tell you. I received lots of requests from India. Probably your auditors and ABL auditors are insisting that they want to see 59 gold. And I did lots of investigation. We actually buy from Johnson Matthey. but Johnson Matthey themselves are not accredited to guide 38. So they will give you the certificate. Even that certificate will give you the measurement of uncertainty, but they are not accredited to guide 38, and your NABL auditor might. But those CRM materials, only they make 5.9 alpha basically, and that is accepted by auditors world over. And I don't know why you guys, in fact I have posed this question to Mr. Saha also, why you are not accepting that. 5.9 gold is nearly 6 times more expensive than the normal gold. Another thing I just wanted to know, why do you need 5.9? Because 5.9 gold probably sometime you will be needing if you are participating in the proficiency tested scheme of LBMA or something. But if you analyze the gold by ICP, that's only LBMA. Yeah, sorry.
5.9 gold is required as per even our IS 1418 or 11426. When you report your fineness of gold, in the fourth significant digit, so if I write only 999 1 kilo, it does not matter, I use 49 check. If I want to report as 999.3, I require 59 check.
Or even 999.0, then I need 59. Otherwise I can, the fourth decimal I can use only if I have 59 test code.
Okay, I must tell you, like in our case, what exactly, we buy a traceable, that is, we consider it traceable because there is no one is selling 5.9 material certified by Guide 38. Because that is more important to you, your auditors. We buy from Johnson Matthey, we certify our own material, so there is a traceability established. Once you have traceability established, then that material is used for certifying because we consume lots of proof gold. So that is used and that is traceable and it is accepted by UCAS and your NABL is member of ILAC. I don't know why they are not accepting that.
Yeah, NIST supplies 5.9 gold.
Johnson Matthey. Johnson Matthey in
NIST America
supplies 5.9.
Yeah, it is supplied. I purchased in 2005 a 2 gram sample costing something like about $1,600.
It's 700 pounds.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. 700 pounds, 2 grams, and that you can get in 64 pounds.
Thank you for your time and patience, and I think we've ended the conference on a very technical note. Thanks, guys.
Starting first with Mr. Dippal Manchanda. Let's have a memento for Mr. Pankaj Desmukh. I would like to request the Managing Director of World Gold Council, Mr. P.R. Somasundaram, to present a memento to Ms. Stella Layton.